All right, we all good?
All right.
Okay, I'm ready
You
now.
ready? Okay. You warm up. Are we rolling? Good. Okay. All right. Welcome to my podcast, Surface Into with Inner. And my first guest, my very good friend, Borell, the guy behind all the exposing of shark culling in Australia, and made an investigative documentary called Envoy film, which is an amazing documentary. I watched it a couple of times. And yeah, so he's been here a few times with us, dove with us, did his dive master with us. And so today, we're just going to have a chat about everything you do. I know you have so many other projects, and also been diving in different places, sharks and stuff. So yeah, so little bit about you, mate.
Mate, I like how you've used mate. You're speaking in my native tongue. Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel very casual here on this couch. I'm like very, very laid back. It should be a good conversation. Little bit about me. I don't know. I don't know where to start. I grew up in Australia, in Brisbane, not too far from the Gold Coast. People probably know the Gold Coast or Surfers Paradise more than they know Brisbane. Wasn't a very good student at school. Didn't really like school at all. As soon as I left school, I sort of worked for my dad for a little while in the family business, and then I started my own business. Did that for 10, 12, 13 years. I can't remember exactly. And along that process, I always tried different hobbies, tried do new exciting things, and one of those things became diving. So very casual diver at first, like would dive a few times a year, and then eventually got more and more and more interested in it, and doing it more and more, and that kind of opened my eyes to all the horrible things that are happening in the ocean and going on. And at some point, a film got made. Thank you for your kind words about it. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. Envoy Shark Cull. Here we are now. Through some weird sequence of events, we're sitting here, a little island on the bottom of the Maldives, talking about shark culling in Australia. So
yeah, on a couch, a very comfy one. Yeah. So yeah, so before you did the movie, were you aware of what's going on in Australia about shark culling at all, or I'm sure at some point you found out it. Like, when did you find out about it? And I know by talking to you, not many Australians are aware of the scale of shark culling in Australia. So when did you find out about it and decided to act on it?
Yeah, sure. So Australia has been culling sharks, that is, killing them with the intent to reduce populations, since 1937 in Sydney, so nearly 100 years. And then the state I'm from, Queensland, which is where the Great Barrier Reef is, which is where Surfers Paradise is, in that state, it's been happening since 1962. Now, I had no idea when I was growing up, would go to the beach for holidays, things like that. So I lived in the city, but would go to the beach for holidays. I had no idea that happened. Absolutely no clue. And it's really not common knowledge. Even now, after the film, it's not really common knowledge yet. It's becoming much, much, much more well-known, but it's not common knowledge. So I found about it after I started scuba diving. And then I started following like Sea Shepherd and pages like that. That's how I found out about it. I was like probably nearly 30 years old.
How long ago was that when you found out about it?
I would say 5-6 years at least. So hang on a second, let me check. I started. Envoy Shark Cull came out in 2021. We started filming it in 2019, and I became aware of it maybe like a year or two before that. So let's say 2018, 2017. And it was only
not that long ago, yeah.
Not that long ago. And I grew up there. Like, I'm from there.
From Queensland.
I went to those beaches. Like every summer holidays when I was a kid. Like, and you just don't know. There's this vague notion that there's shark nets there. And a lot of people think shark nets means it's some sort of barrier, like a swimming enclosure. And if I'm at a beach with shark nets, well, the sharks can't come in here. So that's a fundamental misunderstanding. So the public do not know that sharks are killed intentionally for the purpose of beach safety, even though it doesn't work. We'll get into that. Public do not generally know that. It's getting better, but they generally don't know that. They often know that shark nets exist, but they completely misunderstand what shark nets are. They think it's a fence and they're bulletproof if they're inside a shark net, but they're not. They're just a fishing net. They don't go to the bottom of the ocean, then they go halfway down. At Surfers Paradise Beach, if you include Main Beach, that's like 10 kilometers long, and a shark net is 183 meters long.
183 meters.
Yeah, and it's supposed to protect beaches that are kilometers long.
Wow.
You honestly don't understand how small and how stupid they are until you go out there and you look at one like from the water. Like when you look at them from the shore, you can see a little bright buoy on each end of it, and you look out and you go, oh yeah, shark net, okay, it looks kind of small, but whatever. But when you're in the water and you're looking back at shore and you see how small this thing is, it's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And like, I wish everyone could see this so they could understand how ineffective it is.
And I didn't know, honestly. I thought it could be like miles long nets, and it sounds like, the government is paying someone, probably a bit of corruption or something, just to taxpayers' money, to a contractor. And through your investigation or making this film or doco, did you find out, like, is there anything involved like that? Or
Yeah, so we found a few interesting things with the one contractor. So you're right, the government contracted out to people people or businesses who go and put the nets there, put the drum lines there, which are hooks. Drum line's just a fancy name for a big baited hook. They put the nets and drum lines there. They check them every 48 hours. If they find an animal, they kill it. So if they find a target animal, they kill it.
what are the target animals?
The target animals were 19 species of shark, and there's some stupid species on there that are just ridiculous. Like have never killed a person. Like great hammerhead was a target species.
Great hammerhead?
Black tip reef was a target species. I'm not kidding, bro.
Mate.
It's so stupid. So they recently dropped that down to 7, which is white tiger bull, which I don't agree with, but you can kind of understand where they're coming from. But then there's 4 other species on there that shouldn't be on there. I can't remember what they are, but it's like, it's the Australian black tip. There's some sort of whaler on there. Maybe a bronze whaler is still on there. Anyway, I can't remember what the 7 are now, but 3 are the big 3, and then the other 4, I don't know why they left the other 4 species on there. Stupid. So, yeah, they pay contractors to go out and put the nets there, put the hooks there, bait the hooks, and then kill the animals they find. We found... Yeah, look, we've found some interesting stuff. So one contractor had their license stripped because they were secretly keeping the fins of the sharks that they were killing and selling it like on the black market. So they lost the contract for that. They're big money contracts though. Like so even outside of any corruption, like you're talking, the government spends paying all their contractors up and down the state. Like they spend, if you combine both states, New South Wales and Queensland, they're spending well over $10 million a year on
$10 million?
$10 million a year killing
Australian
sharks.
dollars or US dollars?
Australian dollars.
Australian.
Killing sharks. Yeah, so that's like $1 million US dollars at the moment. The way the exchange rate is. No, I'm joking. It's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. Yeah, so they spend a lot of money killing sharks, like a lot of money. And one thing we're finding recently, so this is after the film coming out, we've been...
Sorry, I'm just checking...
Exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. While you're doing that, one thing we've been finding recently is we have a great team of volunteers now who fly drones at certain beaches and keep an eye on these contractors. And we've found some pretty dodgy stuff. So they're not supposed to dump animals right there at the shark net.
10 million is how many zeros?
10 million would be 7 zeros, right? So it's like it'd be like $7 million US approximately.
Yeah.
So plenty of cash. So they're not supposed to dump. They're not supposed to dump the animals at the shark net, right? Because that would attract sharks. They're supposed to take them out to. They're supposed to take them out to sea and dump them like 5 kilometers from
about
shore. But we've caught them dumping animals. Like we just caught them dumping a manta ray directly there, straight under the net, which is close to the beach. So that manta ray is going to rot and be predated on under that shark net for days, weeks, and be attracting sharks to the area. We've also seen some just monumental, insane level of incompetence when they come and try to kill the animal. It's supposed to obviously be done humanely, and it's...
And what's the humane way to do it?
Well, I mean, there is no humane way to do it, is there? Like that it's a misnomer in itself. But they either use a shotgun to the head or stab the shark through the head, through the brain. But they're really bad at it. Like they're really incompetent. We've seen them attempt to kill a shark for minutes, and the shark's still going. The shark's still kicking. It's messed up. It's really bad. So, yeah, I feel like we're on a tangent now about the contractors, but yeah, they make good money from this business of killing endangered and protected wildlife, which is insane. Like, how do you do that? First of all, but I guess money talks, and then second of all, they don't do it very well. They're really bad at it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of videos that I have seen, even on your film as well. There were a lot of cetaceans and, like you said, manta rays and eagle rays and different species of other animals that get tangled. And I think one of the videos that I've seen was a baby humpback, right? And the mom trying to rescue it all. Like, I know you love whales. What your favorite animals? Like, how did you feel about that when you actually saw those things firsthand in person, like when you were out there?
Yeah, so it's a good point about the other animals it catches, because that's probably the first point to make here is they should not be called shark nets, and it should not be called the shark control program, because 90% of what they catch. It varies beach to beach, but approximately 90% of what they catch is not sharks. It's not target sharks. It's mostly turtles, rays, whales, dolphins, seals, like you name it. It catches pretty much everything but sharks. So that is the vast majority of what goes on there. And in terms of how it makes you feel, like when you've spent quality time in the water with humpbacks and you see how like special they are as animal and how much thought there is behind their eyes and how much, like, I don't know, wisdom there is there. When you see one entangled by a net that just shouldn't be there, like it's not there to protect beachgoers. The beaches are no safer with these devices. They're too small. They're too ineffective. They're too unselective. They don't work. So when they're there just to make the public feel a bit better, to cover a politician's ass, to cover the politician's backside because they don't want to take the risk of taking them out. When they're there for that reason and that reason only, and then you see these animals you love getting entangled, it makes your blood boil, like really, really angry. Like, it used to make me sad, but it doesn't anymore. Now I just get like angry, furious. Yeah. Really, yeah.
Do you think there's lobbying from rich people, probably have beaches or hotels by the beach, and some kind of lobbying at like?
I think there's probably some lobbying from the tourism industry who don't want to take the risk of removing these because obviously shark bite is bad for tourism, right? So I think there's some push from the tourism industry to keep it. However, that push from the tourism industry to keep it is based on a misunderstanding. That is based on the misunderstanding that shark nets are much longer than like you thought they were much longer than they actually are. That they create some sort of barrier, some sort of enclosure, that they keep sharks away from beaches, and based on the misunderstanding that they actually work, and taking them away would create more risk. So there is some push from the tourism industry that we're working on. A lot of our lobbying efforts are being kind of redirected to them now because we've kind of given up on politicians. Like they're just some good ones excluded. They're just the worst. So we're working on the tourism industry now to get them better aware of what shark nets actually are. And then if the tourism industry can start pushing for them to be gone instead of to keep them, I think that's probably the key now. We're learning as we go. We don't know what will get the job done.
Yeah. Okay, those are the politicians and I guess, people in power and like rich people. But I know a lot of these changes should come from general public, right? The more the general public is aware of it, the better it is. And I think one of the high risk, let's say, people are most of the time, like let's say surfing community, probably. I don't know if there's any spearfishing going on there or spear fishermen's swimmers. Like what is, like, I wonder, how does the surfing community, which is most of the time you hear news surfers getting attacked by sharks, do they support these nets or drum lines and stuff, or they're mostly against those things?
Yeah, so surfers are the highest risk category. You're right. In terms of unprovoked shark bite, it's surfers is definitely the highest risk category. They're generally speaking, I try not to generalize too much because there's a lot of different views in any community or any space. But generally speaking, they're supportive of nets not being there. They don't want nets. They understand how harmful they are. They understand how ineffective they are. They don't want them. Where the surfing community starts to split on is like, what should we do instead? Some are like, they're home, we take the risk, whatever. Like, it's part of the risk we take. Some want some security, right? Some want to have some sort of peace of mind that something's being done. So some of the surfing community like to have drum lines, but generally they want catch and release drum lines. So a drum line that will catch a shark, contractor comes out, tags the shark and releases it. They generally want those and think those are a good idea. They don't seem to really support the catch and kill drum lines, which is just anything that gets caught, kill it. But it's very nuanced. They all seem to like drones. The idea of, some eyes in the sky have got your back. They seem to like drones. So, but generally speaking, they do not want shark nets and they do not want catch and kill drum lines, and because they realize it doesn't work. It's nothing more than a placebo, and it's so harmful to the ocean, which is what they love about surfing, is the ocean. So that's generalizing a little bit, but that's generally been my vibe. Speaking about the community more broadly, though, the one thing I will say is since the film has come out, and I don't want to take credit for this solely, because there's other organizations that have been working in this space for much longer than us and do good work as well, right? But what I feel like I've seen since the film has come out is, if you go to a comment section, right? If the post is about sharks, if the post is about shark nets, whatever. If the post is if the post is about a shark bite, if the post is somewhat related to this topic, the comment section I kind of use to judge what the vibe is, and it is hugely anti-net, like almost 100% anti-net, almost 100% like pro-shark conservation and not killing sharks. And that's changed. It used to be, I don't know, 50-50, 75-25.
That's good progress, I guess.
It's good progress. And our petition has 150,000 signatures. Like, it's good progress in a lot of areas. Where it always falls apart, and I was talking to someone about this today on one of your boats when we were out diving, where it falls apart and where the progress stops, where the sentiment just doesn't convert to change, is politicians. It always comes down to one politician who is just too scared, too gutless. They just won't take the step to go, okay, this is an old program. This is out of date. This is stupid. There's so many better ways to do it. Let's get rid of it. It's always one politician who's scared to take that step. And even if there's a plan from a department or a proposal from a scientific working group to do that, they hit it on the head and they go, no, not on my watch, not doing it, because I'm a little bitch. Can we swear on this?
You can.
Okay.
I don't know if YouTube, what was the YouTube?
Is bitch okay? Well, it's okay. I won't do it anymore.
We'll find out. What is like the the progress of passing any laws or regulation in Queensland or in Australia in general. Like it has to go from, I don't know, a council, a city council, or mayor, or like how does that work? And if and also is there any work done going to, I guess, to Parliament or yeah.
Yeah, so this whole program is run at a state level. So the New South Wales government run it in New South Wales, the Queensland government run it in Queensland. Councils can exert some pressure, and they do. They say we don't want this at our beaches, but ultimately they don't actually have any say. It's the state government that has say. Yeah, and I mean the federal government at a national level sort of comes into this because they run the environment laws, generally speaking. So there's a little bit of a federal government angle to this, but most of the battle is fought at a state level, and it's the state premiers, which is like the highest position within the state. It's like the president for the state or the prime minister for the state. The premier. In every case, we've been close to having a win so far. Every time we've been close, the premier is the one that steps in over the top of their fisheries minister, because the program's run by the fisheries department, which is a whole nother story. It's always the premier that steps in and stops it and goes, no, we're not taking this risk, not on my watch. We got an election next year. We got this coming. We got that. No, they always stop it.
Is that guy or lady, is he or she elected or?
Yeah, they're elected. They're elected. So I'll give you an example. In Queensland, 2 years ago, nearly 3 years ago now, there was a press conference scheduled on the Gold Coast to announce that nets would no longer be used during humpback season, right? During migration season. So nets would still be there for summer, but during winter they would come out. Not many people use the beach anyway. Humpbacks, there's 40,000 humpbacks that come past the coast. 40,000 humpbacks come past the coast every year.
Wow.
And then we have all these we put this obstacle course in the way of fishing nets, right? So there was a press conference scheduled for that to be gone, finished, announcement made. We're not doing this in winter anymore. At like 11 o'clock that night, before the press conference the next morning, the premier, which was a female at the time, she just recently resigned, she stepped in and said, no, not on my watch, scrap it. We're not doing it. So the fisheries minister had worked with a scientific working group, worked with his department, had a whole plan. It was all structured, press conference scheduled to announce it. Premier, who's gutless and only worried about herself and purely politically motivated, looked at it and went, what's the upside of this position of this decision? Not much. Maybe we save a few humpbacks from getting entangled, and then looks at the downside and goes, but if someone gets bitten at that beach, they're going to come and blame me, and the media is going to tear me apart. No, scrap it, off, finished, not doing it. So it's purely political. We've had similar situations in New South Wales as well, where there was close to announcements and the premier comes in over the top. And the annoying thing is the premier doesn't know enough about the topic to be doing that. You know what I mean? The premier just knows broad strokes, shark nets, and then they go, no, without educating themselves.
Maybe you should take this person out and show them.
I've offered. Yeah. I've tried. We've tried it. We've tried everything. We're offered to take the premier out in Queensland. They refused, and she resigned recently though. So there's a new one, and I feel good about the new one. Maybe. So he used to be environment minister. He's a bit more progressive than this other chick was, who's just like a career politician, hasn't done any real work in her life. It's just a bit pathetic. So makes every decision on politics. Whereas this other guy now, Stephen Miles, I have a bit more faith for him. Queensland is this is a tangent, but bear with me. Queensland is a big resources state.
We got time.
Queensland is a big resources state in terms of like coal and mining and things like that. So it's very risky to do any climate-based decisions in Queensland because a lot of workers in the state are like miners and things like that. So most politicians stay away from climate change in Queensland. But the ex-premier, she resigned. He gets in, replaces her. The first day he's in, he like ups the climate pledge that Queenslanders made from like net zero by, don't quote me on this, but it's like net zero by 2050 to net zero by 2035 or something, like something way more aggressive on his first day in. And he used to be environment minister, so I'm like, fingers crossed that he's a bit more progressive, and maybe he can see the light. But we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely see. It's interesting though, you know, like when I was younger, and I guess most of the Maldivians probably think Australia has so much wildlife in the water, on land, you know, so many unique different animals there. And you know, after talking to you for the last few years, you know, like we have so many discussions like that, and it's still unreal for someone like me looking from far, and to hear that Australia out of all the countries would be, and I think it's not just the sharks, you know, some of the land animals also facing a lot of threats, and is so unreal for us to hear something like that, you know, this could be going on in a country like Australia. And you're here now, you've been here a few times and spent a lot of time with here doing dives and doing your dive master course and with sharks, and you know, the coexistence we have with the little nature we have, and how do you like, what do you think that islands like us do that probably the people in Australia could look at it and say, you know, like it's a better way of doing it?
Yeah, so to your first point of it's surprising that these things happen in Australia, I hear that a lot, and I understand it, and it's because most of the world sees like the tourism poster version of Australia, or the tourism advert version of Australia, right? Which is beautiful and amazing animals, and everyone's happy, and come visit Australia, we're so great. But the reality is, it's like, yeah, it's not good. We kill 2 million kangaroos every year just because farmers don't like them. We shoot them in the face. They often don't die straight away. They usually die pretty slow and painful. If they have a joey in the pouch, the official code of practice way to kill a joey, if you've shot its mum, is to grab it by the back legs and smash its head on a hard object. I shit you not, that is in the code of practice.
No, that's not real.
That's real. I'll show you it later.
Shit up.
I'll show you it later. You name it. Like we deforest more than deforestation happens in Brazil and the Amazon. Like Australia is not what people think it is. We can talk about that a bit later, maybe, because I have a project, a new project about this, kind of showing the nice side of Australia, but also showing the stuff that's usually left out, because it's pretty grim. Which leads me to your question about coexistence. So I just think Australians, and maybe it's just generally a white people thing, to be honest, because Australia is obviously a colonial country. The British came there and took it. Like, we're just not very good at coexisting. Like, the answer is always kill. It's always kill. The default is never to coexist. If it's kangaroos, if it's sharks, if it doesn't matter. It's like the first answer is always wipe it out, kill it, like whatever it might be. And you come here, like I come here, and I think this is one of the reasons I enjoy coming here so much, is you come here and it's not like that. Like it seems like you guys just accept that nature is like part of how things are, and it deserves to be here like as much as you guys, and there's not this crazy, stupid amount of fear of sharks that exists in Australia. And maybe it's because of the media. You don't have media like hyping up the fear all the time, making people like foam at the mouth, want to kill sharks because they're so terrified of them. I don't know why it is, but you guys are obviously so much more connected. And your answer doesn't, if there's some, human wildlife conflict, which A, just doesn't seem to happen here really, but B, even if it did, it seems like your answer is not straight to kill. So I really enjoy it here. I feel much more at home here than I ever have in Australia, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a lot of thing. When it comes, like I've traveled also quite a bit and had different experiences. especially urban areas, right? And people are very disconnected with from the nature. And my, for example, great grandfather, he said this to me, like never kill anything without a reason. And what he means by reason is, for example, like if you kill a fish, make sure you eat it. It's not like a lot of people go and just like sports fishing, for example, just for the sake of as a sports. It's not necessarily to eat. And those values. And I always tell this story, for example, of him. One day, I was going, always we go in the morning. He goes for a swim and he takes me to swim with him. And there was this palm tree, right? And one of the palm leaves was like kind of hanging, and I jumped and hang on the leaves, and the leaf broke, and it was a raw leaf. It's not a dry leaf, and I fell down on the sand. Nothing happened to me, but he was so mad at me. Not be like, and I said, "What happened? Why are you so mad?" And he said, you just made the lifespan of this palm tree 1 year less. And I was like, why? It's just a palm leaf. And he said, it takes a full year to grow one of those leaves. And then now the palm tree has to regrow a leaf, which will take another year, and then it's going to without naturally. So I think probably there's no scientific truth to that. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. But they create these stories, and educate, like their kids or their grandkids to protect the nature, right? And because they're so connected, and even with these stories or their belief, whatever it is, like, and I often have these conversations, especially when I'm in cities, and I can see people cut down massive, trees and build a, I don't know, 10-story building, and then they have a plant in in their living room. They try to have a, and then I'm always like, of course I understand if it is a city, you need places, but and that kind of disconnect people from the nature. And then yet we also want to have something, I don't know, a plant in the house or something. We want to feel that, but we are not really connected to the nature. And that's a huge part that is missing in a lot of these urban areas, and I would say developed cities and countries and stuff.
Yeah, I think disconnect is definitely a big part of it. And to be honest, like if you do come from a big city in Australia or America or wherever, like how can you be connected to nature, right? Like it is kind of hard to be, but that's not really an excuse. It just means we're doing something wrong. As a society, we're not valuing the right things. Valuing money over nature definitely in Australia is to a crazy extent. So. I think there's no stories like that, like what you just described. In Australia, Indigenous communities, First Nations, they have a lot of stories. I don't want to misrepresent anything or use the wrong terminology here, but they talk about the dream time. So they have these stories and they pass on lessons like what you're talking about through those stories, whereas like we don't really. We just, grow up with, I don't know, what the media tell us and what our parents tell us, and that gets seared into your brain, and you take it as true until you unlearn it. Nothing of value is really being discussed there.
Yeah. So talking about media, right? And I've heard and I know, like, we have seen a lot of these orcas and like these rescue dolphins and stuff. There's a huge thing going on media now to rescue these animals. And you told me about a project that you are working on currently to rescue some orcas and create a sanctuary for orcas and belugas. And like if you can explain more on that, like that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So we're working on a project in Norway to create the world's first whale reserve for animals that are currently in concrete tanks glass tanks that need a place to go. So there's obviously a massive, what you're referring to is there's a massive anti-captivity movement, which is totally correct, and I couldn't agree more. Keeping such smart and sentient animals in those kinds of conditions should be criminal. It shouldn't be allowed. It should be illegal. It's horrible. So there's a big movement against that. It has been for many years. However, there's also kind of nowhere for them to go. They shouldn't be in tanks, but where should they go? I became aware of became more and more interested in the issue, and was like, okay, how can I help? What can we do? Is this something that we could work on and add some value? And there's a project in Canada that's been kind of trying to do a reserve like this or a sanctuary like this for quite a while now, probably 5, 6, 7 years, but is not open.
I've heard about it. Not good things though.
Yeah. Look, well, I'll stay out of that. But they've been working on it for a long time, and they've raised a lot of money, and nothing's built. Right, like it doesn't exist. So then I was like, okay, where else would be good, right? If Canada's no good, and that project may or may not happen. I don't know. That's not my concern. Where else would be good? So came across Norway and actually came across a group there that were already working on something similar. Had a conversation with them, decided to team up and do it together, joined the board there. And it's up in the northern part of Norway, in the Arctic part of Norway. Basically got agreement in principle from a municipality to be given a 500-acre fjord there, like really beautiful. I mean, like surrounded by mountains.
Imagine like mountains, northern lights, orcas,
snow,
like
yeah,
snow, yeah, that was.
And the perfect fjord, right? Like right size, right depth, has quite a narrow mouth, so you only need to enclose, like you only need to net off one side, because they still will need to be enclosed in some way. Instead of a swimming pool size, they're going to have a 500-acre fjord, so obviously much, much better. But these animals can't fend for themselves.
And deep, I guess.
And deep, yeah, and lots of stimulation for them. Wildlife will still be able to come in through this net because it will be quite big. It just needs to keep, orcas or belugas in. It doesn't need to keep every other piece of wildlife out. So fish will be able to come in there. Whatever will be able to come in and out as it pleases. But yeah, they'll need care. They're not going to be able to fend for themselves. They're either born in captivity or captured very, very early and kept in captivity their whole lives. They can't fend for themselves until they're rehabilitated, and if it's possible to release them, fantastic, that will happen. But initially, they will need to be in a pen. But our plan is for it to be a 500-acre sea pen where it's as close as possible to a natural life. As opposed to a tiny little concrete tank. So that's coming along well. We've got environmental approvals. We need to do one more study to keep the municipality happy, and then hopefully can start to build the thing pretty soon. So that it would be the first time it's been done in the world, and I think it's the right place to do it. It would be so good to see some animals either live the rest of their lives in relative happiness in an environment like this rather than absolute misery, or
I've seen some videos from the drone videos.
They just sit there, they just sink to the bottom. They're so
one
miserable.
in Miami, like what was what's her name?
So Miami was
Lolita.
Yes, and then there was one in Canada as well. This is the one that really got me interested in it, which was Kiska in Canada. And it was, she was called the world's loneliest orca, or nicknamed the world's loneliest orca. So, and the videos are horrible. Like she was bashing her head against the wall and like clearly
and drowning
miserable
herself.
Yeah. So hopefully, at the very least, it's a place where these animals can go and live out the rest of their life in relative happiness. Best case, especially with belugas, there's a real chance that they could be released.
Is that because they can learn the other dialects or
so orca only know. Look, we're working with a environmental animal welfare NGO over there, so they have the scientists, they have all the experts. I'm just talking as we're no experts. But my understanding is orca can't. They know each pod, depending which pod the orca is from, it will have a dialect. it will have a dialect and they only know that dialect and they can't learn other ones, it seems, although this will be something we will study. Whereas belugas can learn other dialects, so you can kind of hopefully release beluga into a pod that is not naturally their own, and they can assimilate, they can learn the language of that pod. So yeah, there's a real hope that most animals that come can be released. However, look, no one's done this before, ever.
Yeah,
Like
so
they've
it's
released
learning
one
by doing,
orca
I guess,
before.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
But for one thing, for sure, it is, it's a better environment for a lot of these captive animals to live in, right? That's for sure. And it's, like, I hope this project goes through, and like, you rescue some, or your team or everybody who's working on this project rescue some animals, and I hope I can come and like see them in this environment. And I've never been to any of these kind of shows or animal captive swimming pool or whatever. I've never been, and I actually don't want to be. But one of the thing, like, we often have this conversation with people, and there's two side of the conversation. One is like, yeah, it's good, like they can do some scientific research while they're in captive, so they're representing, let's say, the orca, the Lolita is represent the entire orca population, so they can study and all this argument. And sometimes when you listen to it, kind of like someone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about it, it's appealing, right? Like, is okay, that makes sense. And I don't know if you from through the scientists that you're working with have any, is that true? Like, can they find significant, like, scientific things while in the captivity? Or
yeah, so it's a tough one. I mean, these companies that catch and keep animals in a swimming pool that belong in the ocean for profit, they're always going to greenwash what they do, right? They're very good with their PR spin and making it sound like they're the most incredible organization ever, and if it wasn't for them, everyone would hate the ocean, and they're doing such good things and they're educating all these people. Like, I don't buy it. Like, SeaWorld's a multi-billion-dollar business. They're there to make money. Like, it's that simple. Like, does the odd child that goes and sees a show get inspired and maybe become a marine biologist and go on to actually do something good? Maybe, yeah, sure. But the same can be said for nature documentaries. The same can be said for other ways. So, yeah. And in terms of research that happens in these places, I think you can't learn anything about behavior or anything like that in captivity, because it's an unnatural setting. All the behavior is going to be unnatural, right? Can you learn things biology-wise by, I don't know, like taking blood samples or taking microbial samples or something like that from these animals in captivity? I don't know. Maybe
you probably could do that in the wild as well.
You could do that in the wild. Could you do it in captivity? Maybe, but then isn't the data going to be skewed because they're swimming in a chlorine pool instead of the ocean? Like I just don't buy any of that stuff at all. But they're very good. They're very good at greenwashing what they do and trying to play the hero. But yeah, I just don't agree. I don't agree with any of it. No.
Yeah, I don't agree either. Like, but it is happening, and I hope this again. It's a successful project, and it's this kind of creative thinking and massive effort from group of people. Like that is bringing a lot of changes. Especially in conservation and shark world, and shark killing and education and awareness. Like our friend Juan and Ocean. Like they also always talk about these things, and and I think one of the best education that people can get is like taking them in the water. Let's say with sharks here, we every day we take people shark diving, and I know in Australia for sure people doing it, in Hawaii and a lot of places. And what was it like for you to go with sharks or whales for that matter first time in the world? And I know you took some of your friends as well, and who were very nervous. And how did they change? People change their perception like instantly when they see them actually.
yeah, get it for me. Documentaries can be good. Social media can be good. Taking someone out whale watching, for example, on a whale watching boat, like we're not swimming with them, you're just whale watching, can be good. But nothing compares, like not even close, to actually getting them under the water, getting their face under the water with a mask on, and actually experiencing sharks, whales, whatever it is, in their natural environment, which is underwater with them. Nothing compares to that. Like the best social media post, the best documentary, nothing goes even close. Like I've had, we did for business I used to own, we did an executive retreat kind of thing to Hawaii, and went out with Ocean and One with the management team, with the executive team, and two of them. So it's sort of funny thinking about it. Two of them were terrified. They're like, we know this is like a team building thing. We know we have to come, but we're just going to come out on the boat. We're not going to get in the water. Like they're adamant. Like absolutely not. On the way out, like Ocean's starting to kind of try and convince them, be like, yeah, you just maybe have a little bit. And they're like, look.
She has that effect.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, look, maybe we'll see. Like, anyway, she ended up, they were terrified, like pretty much shaking, right? And she convinced them to get in the water. And the moment their face went under, like within seconds, they were like, oh my God, this is not what I thought it was. Like they genuinely thought getting in the water with sharks, like I could have limbs torn off me here any second. This is like terrified for their life, like genuinely scared. And within seconds, I'm not exaggerating, face underwater, they're like, huh, this is fine. Like they're not even interested in us. They're chill. They're just doing their own thing. Like everything I've been told by the media, by Hollywood is a lie. Like, within seconds, you can't do that with a film or with and the same goes for humpbacks as well. You know, like you hear how cool humpbacks are, and people put, you know, their songs on to sleep to, and like all these things. But get someone's face underwater with a humpback that is willingly interacting on its own terms, and coming and checking you out and using its pec fin to see how far away you are gently, and like eyeballing you, like eye contact, like. Nothing can do that. So yeah, anyway, I can't remember what the original question was, but my answer is, regardless of what the question was, is get people, or you, if you're listening, if you haven't done it yourself, but get people and get their face under the water, and it literally changes your world, because nothing can do it justice other than that. And especially when it comes to sharks, you realize that, yeah, you've been lied to.
You're so wrong.
Yeah.
All your life. And we get that, we do it for a living, and every day we have. And, sometimes people ask this question to me, like, don't you get bored diving every day with sharks? And I get where the question is coming from, like you do the same thing every day, and I never get bored. And because, tiger sharks are my favorite. I'm yet to experience a humpback. And try to understand, because I always, argue with people who love whales. I'm like, yeah, I prefer sharks, and they're like, yeah, wait until you have that moment, a whale come up to you, and then you're probably gonna change your mind. And hopefully soon I can have the experience, and I can see. But then like they ask, don't you get bored? And I say, like, what for us, like seeing those transition, people changing their perception like instantly after first dive, before before they go on their first tiger dive, they're nervous and they're scared, and then they go in, we try to convince them, we give them briefing, educate them, it's gonna be fine, or so on, and they come back with, they have like ear to ear smiling, like some people often crying, and then honestly, like that's like to be able to transfer that energy or that thinking to be able to change the somebody's perception towards the animal that you care about so much is the best feeling. And I love it, and every day when I do it, and I'm sure all the team, everyone who is in this space probably will have the same feeling. And that's why we try to convince everybody you meet, like your friends, family, anyone, let's go diving with sharks, or let's go swim with whales and stuff.
I think like sometimes documentaries are like the big flashy way of creating change, right? And because you can reach big audiences, but I honestly think they're not as good as that. Like, it's not as good as what Ocean One do with their charters and taking out a boat full of people at a time in Hawaii. It's not as good as what you guys do here, taking people to meet tiger sharks face to face. Like, the doing that, like, you're creating change, like one boatload at a time, or one person at a time, whatever it might be. And it's so much more impactful than even the best documentary can be, I think. So, like, documentaries get a lot of, I don't know, they're like a big tool for impact and for change, but they can never compare to a real life experience. And doing it, like, you're doing it one person at a time, and it snowballs and it adds up. So it's good.
Yeah, it is good. And yeah, these are like real impact. And I think there are, when it comes to sharks, obviously there's this fear, right? And it's always gonna be there, right? People who doesn't go in the water, people who are scared or watching the media and stuff, they're gonna be scared. And I know for a fact there's a lot of alternatives, like for surfers, like these devices that they use to kind of jam their sensors and keep the sharks away. And one of the project you are involved in is this wetsuit that sharks apparently cannot bite through that. And these innovations, like helps a lot as well to give people some kind of security when they're swimming in the water as well. And also, like to push the governments to look for some different alternatives. Look, there are so many different options. So I'm super interested in this wetsuit, like, and how do you come up with this? And
Yeah, so when I first made the film, my position was kind of like, we should just stop with the shark nets and stop with the drum lines. And if you don't want to take the risk of going in the ocean, don't go in the damn ocean, right? That was my original position. But I soon realized that was unrealistic, right? I realized that governments who are currently killing sharks in an attempt to keep people safe are not all of a sudden then going to do nothing, right? They're always going to be doing something. So they're doing, they'll transition from catch and kill drum lines to catch and release drum lines. They've started doing drones so you can keep an eye out for sharks. In Western Australia, for example, they give rebates on the electrical deterrent devices you were talking about. That where basically what you were referencing. So you can wear a device on your ankle or on your surfboard, and the electrical sensors of the shark get overwhelmed by it. The ampulla of Lorenzini, and they don't like it, and they turn around and leave. I soon started to realize that all these tools, there's never going to be one silver bullet. The one answer of this is how we protect people from sharks, and the government can stop doing everything else and it will just use this one thing. It's always going to be a suite of tools, right? And the electrical deterrent is one of them. And then I came across this, I was introduced by a journalist who'd run a story on our film and also done a story with this guy who'd invented a shark bite resistant fabric. So it's a composite of a bite resistant textile and neoprene. And basically it wears very, very similar to a normal wetsuit, but really resistant to shark bite. So I got introduced to this guy. This guy was trying to fundraise to turn it from an idea and from a piece of fabric that had been tested on sharks, on real great white sharks in South Australia, and turn it into an actual product, turn it into a wetsuit. So, initially I invested and helped him run a Kickstarter. He sold like $250,000 worth of wetsuits to start up. And then his name's Hayden. He's the one who invented the fabric. And then I think the reality came down on him on oh my gosh, I actually have a business here that I need to run now, and I'm 70 something, and I don't know if this is really for me. So we had a conversation. He asked me to get more involved and take over, and I have, not really because I wanted to run another business or anything like that, more because I think it's a great tool in that suite of tools that is needed for humans to exist with sharks in countries where killing sharks is the current answer. So yeah, it's really cool. It's tested on great white sharks, tested in a laboratory. Really, really, really good bite resistance. Like great white's teeth will barely get through it. So yeah, I just thought it was a really cool tool that could be used to help foster coexistence. Not particularly something I saw myself doing, running a wetsuit business, but here we are. And yeah, I think it can be a tool that helps sharks and helps people. So yeah, win-win. But yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about much of the science or anything like that, but I think it's probably just easiest to direct people to there. So the brand is called SharkStop. So if you go to sharkstop.co/science, I assume is the science page. I don't know. I'm guessing.
We can put it on.
Go to sharkstop.co and click in the menu and go to the science page.
We'll put it on the on the how you call the
on the show notes. Yeah. So
show notes or whatever.
yeah, go check out the science page. There's videos on there of a great white shark grabbing this fabric and shaking it, and like it's barely got any holes in it. So whereas normal neoprene, which is what they used as the control fabric for the scientific testing,
but it is like normal neoprene, right?
It has normal neoprene in it. It's a composite. It's a composite of normal neoprene and bite-resistant textile, like a nanofibers, basically. Loads and loads and loads of tiny, tiny, tiny little fibers that are really densely packed together, and that's what makes it pretty much impossible for things to get through it. So I did a pitch about this in Sydney last month, I think it was, at this event called Innovation, run by Ocean Impact Organisation Australia, who I know the two founders of that. They're good dudes. Anyway, I did a pitch there, and I literally got like a sheet of that fabric and put it on my leg and was like stabbing myself with a dive knife during the pitch in the leg. And yeah, like I'm fine. I didn't stab myself in the leg because the fabric works. But yeah, the reaction was really cool at that event. Like people in the crowd were like, like gasping, like actually, like what is this guy doing? And yeah, it was a pretty popular pitch. Yeah. It went down pretty well. It's a cool fabric. It wears pretty damn close to a normal wetsuit in terms of flex and comfort and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great for surfers who are worried about the man in the grey suit, as they call, as that's how surfers refer to sharks in Australia. If you're worried about it and it gives you a bit of peace of mind, great. Will it protect you if something happens one day? It's going to be a hell of a lot better than normal neoprene. However, it's very unlikely that something's ever going to happen to you on any day because the risk of shark bite,
the chances
is so low. So I more see it as a tool for peace of mind because you're not likely at all to get bitten. But if you do get bitten, it does work, and the scientific testing shows it works. So it's just going to improve your likelihood. It's not going to stop every scratch and every...
And also, because of the bite, it might not puncture, but you're still gonna, because of the pressure, you're still gonna like injure yourself. But it's better than you bleeding underwater, bleed to.
Yeah. This is the question we get a bit. People go, "What about broken bones? What about tendons? What about this? What about that?" And my answer is always like, we're not there to stop every possible injury. Like you're not Iron Man. You're not going to walk away without a scratch on you if a 4-meter great white comes up and bites your leg, right? The concept is to stop catastrophic damage that will lead to you dying. And catastrophic damage that leads to you dying in shark bite incidents is almost always the femoral artery being severed. So there's a big artery running on the inside of your leg. If you get cut through that, you bleed out and die in minutes. So this wetsuit is to stop your femoral artery getting cut, and it's to stop you hopefully bleeding out and dying. It's not there so you can go get bitten by a great white and walk away and have a laugh about it at the pub an hour later. That's not what it's for. It's to save your life if the worst should happen. That's the concept behind it.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're gonna end now, but I have a question for you since you have been involved in so many amazing projects, and I wish nothing but success for all of this amazing work you do, and I genuinely thank you for that, and I appreciate everything you do for conservation, especially for sharks and everything. But I always ask this question to, and if you can give me this answer, you probably might save sharks more. The recording of a humpback whale singing saved thousands, if not millions, of whales. They recorded that. Nat Geo, someone bought it, sold millions of copies, so people start listening it, people start resonating that. And then the plastic straw, the video of like someone pulling it out of the nose of a turtle, kind of entire plastic straw conversation started. And then a lot of people change it to reusable or paper straw. And in your mind, what could be that moment for the sharks?
That is $1 million question, isn't it? It's the $1 billion question. Maybe it's because we just spoke about it, and it's not the best answer because it can't go like viral per se. But my answer, I think, is doing what you're doing. Get people under the water. Get people's face below the surface and see sharks for themselves, and see that everything they've been taught, that they're mindless killers and they're man-eaters and they can smell a drop of blood in a swimming pool and they'll come and tear your leg off. See that all that is a lie. And the only way to truly see that for yourself is face to face. So yeah, it can't go viral and get 10 million views, but and you have to do it one person at a time. But for you guys, keep doing what you're doing, because I honestly think that's the only thing at the moment that changes people's perceptions, is seeing it for themselves. And for people listening, like, you're probably, if you're listening to this, you're probably interested in sharks and probably interested in diving anyway. So for you, I would say, like, grab friends, grab your family by the scruff of the neck and drag them to somewhere like this. Or if you've got somewhere closer to you, fantastic. Grab them by the scruff of the neck. Don't take no for an answer. Bring them here and shove their head under the water if you have to, and make them see it for themselves. And I think that can be hugely impactful. It's one person at a time. It's a slow grind. It's hard work. I understand. But that's the best answer I got for today. And if I think of something better,
you can keep thinking about it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me on. And like I said, just as part of that answer, what you guys are doing is awesome. And at a personal level, I think I just wanted to say thank you and all your team too. A couple of them are behind camera at the moment. Sarum, Panda, how you going? And your team for making me feel so welcome here. But we're both, when I was just a customer and also when I was doing my dive master, like I said at the start of this, I feel more at home here than I do in Australia, and that's partly because of the environment and the culture here and the coexistence, but also because of you guys. You guys make me feel warm, make me warm and fuzzy, and part of the crew and part of the family. So I appreciate all of you, and thank you, and everyone come here.
We love having you here, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for everything.
Thanks for listening, team.
Cheers.